Christopher Nolan, the highly acclaimed British American filmmaker known for his exceptional storytelling and groundbreaking approach to cinema. Born in 1970 in London, England. Actually, his birthday is in 2 days from now, on the 30th. His passion. Happy birthday, Christopher Nolan. Nolan's passion for filmmaking emerged at an early age when he began creating short films with his family's Super 8 camera. This is a, you know, it's a, you hear this story a lot with directors.
Yeah.
But his career took off in the late 1990s when he wrote and directed his first feature film, Following. On a shoestring budget, however, it was his mind-bending thriller Memento that brought him widespread recognition and critical acclaim. The film's non-linear narrative and innovative storytelling captivated audiences and marked the beginning of Nolan's signature style. He further solidified his reputation as a master storyteller with monumental films like the Dark Knight trilogy, comprising of Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises, and these films not only revitalized the superhero genre, but also elevated to new artistic heights. And some people will find that debatable, because just around that same time, Iron Man came out.
Okay.
So the Marvel and DC battle is always will always be there. His filmography also includes mind-bending blockbusters such as Inception, Interstellar, which showcases exceptional ability to bend captivating visuals with complex, intellectually stimulating plots. But throughout his career, Nolan has garnered numerous accolades, including Academy Award nominations and widespread acclaim from both critics and audiences alike, known for his preference for practical effects and a commitment to shooting on film. Nolan has become a torchbearer for preserving the traditional art of filmmaking in the digital age. Nolan's films have left an indelible mark on the cinematic landscape, shaping contemporary storytelling and inspiring aspiring filmmakers worldwide as one of the most influential and visionary directors of his generation. Nolan continues to push the boundaries of storytelling, challenging and captivating audiences with each new project. Is there a certain movie that comes to mind when you think of Christopher Nolan?
Well, I didn't know of his first couple movies that he did. I think the first one I probably watched was Inception, and that was really good.
Yeah, so
Um,
so he did. So he's done 12 movies,
okay.
and it seems that he comes out with a movie every 2 to 3 years. It started in 1908, Following, then Memento, Insomnia, then Batman Begins, The Prestige, The Dark Knight, Inception, The Dark Knight Rises, uh,
Dunkirk.
Interstellar,
Oh,
Dunkirk,
Interstellar.
Tenet, and Oppenheimer.
Okay.
He's also been an executive producer for Transcendence, Dawn of Justice, The Justice League, The Doll's Breath, and Zack Snyder's director's cut of the Justice League. He was also an executive producer on. Uh,
Okay.
but you say Inception is the one that you.
Started my knowledge of him, yeah, or my background in his movies. Oddly enough, too, do you notice that when Doctor Strange came out, they used a lot of the same CGI as Inception did? That's what I thought when I saw Doctor Strange.
That's real funny because if Christopher Nolan heard you say that, he'd be super offended because he doesn't use CGI. He doesn't
Well,
use
even better.
he doesn't use green
Good.
screen. He doesn't use any of
Good.
that stuff, and that's what makes him such a remarkable filmmaker. Um, I mean, the first
Wow.
I think the first Christopher Nolan movie I watched was Batman Begins, and then I started
Okay.
venturing into his other movies like Insomnia, especially. We also have The Prestige, which to me personally is my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. I think it tells a great story of two magicians
Yep.
with a with a
Now,
mag,
who is?
with a magnetic
Oh, go ahead.
twist to it. It's That's Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. Now, who is in Insomnia? Was that Al Pacino?
Guy
Am
Pearce.
I get Guy Pierce? Okay.
Oh wait,
I'm gonna have to watch that one
no,
again.
you're my apologies. I'm thinking of Memento. Yeah, Insomnia is Al Pacino, Robin Williams, Hilary Swank,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
It's like up in
Mara
Alaska or
Tierney.
something.
Yeah,
Okay, I have seen it. That was a good one.
yeah.
I've seen Memento too.
Christopher Nolan doesn't mess around. He's not one to be trifled with.
Hmm.
He's not. He's not.
Memento might have been the first one I've actually seen because that was out a long time ago. I remember getting that at the video stores.
Mm.
We rented that quite a bit, actually. That was a good one.
Yeah, he's had a major impact in films too, redefining genre films, which he did with the Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, Interstellar, where and he demonstrated that blockbuster movies could be both commercially successful and intellectually stimulating.
Hmm.
Popularizing non-linear narratives, which is a big thing right now. People want linear stories. They want expanded universes. But he doesn't he's not big on that. He tells one shot stories, and it's up to you to determine what happened before and what happened after. The revival of practical effects. We were just talking about this in an era dominated by
Yeah.
CGI. Christopher Nolan's dedication to using the practical effects and shooting on film has rejuvenated an appreciation for traditional filmmaking techniques. His commitment to authenticity and real world stunts has set a standard for filmmakers to balance practical effects with digital technology. Biggest example right now is Oppenheimer.
Yep.
They used a rather large bomb types situation to create the explosion that was for the movie. And there's actually a
Okay.
whole behind the scenes thing about it too.
I'd have to check that out. I did.
Yeah,
I was fortunate to go check that out last weekend, and it's a very good movie.
yeah. He's also had box office success and critical acclaim. Every one of his movies have been a success. Influence on contemporary filmmakers. His innovative storytelling have influenced a whole generation of filmmakers. It's amazing. Cultural impact. His movies have become cultural touchstones. They spark discussions on debate on complex themes such as time, memory, identity, and morality. His films often leave a lasting impact on audiences as well, prompting them to contemplate philosophical and ethical questions long after leaving the theater. And what's interesting about this is that every movie that he has always had a diverse group of casts.
Hmm.
And like the most important thing is the cinematic experience.
He does pick out his actors real good. I've noticed that.
He's very intricate. He recycles a lot of them, which is
Hmm.
completely fine. I'm definitely okay with that. Because then we have a familiarization, we build chemistry, and I think that's important with films today, especially with how he makes a
He has a whole style of his own, I've noticed, and I can't even describe it. But if you watch enough of his movies, you'll be like, he. It's a.
film. Well, now
It's
that
not
you know that he
grainy.
doesn't use CGI, maybe you'll go back and
Right.
watch everything and realize, like, wait a minute, that was really done.
That's cool that he did that. It's kind of bringing back the old George Lucas '70s aspect of for CGI using what you got.
Yeah, very, and the audience reception is amazing. There's an appreciation for intellectual simulation again, visual spectacle, emotional impact, storytelling, love for genre revival, mixed opinions on endings, debate on sound mixings, which is another thing. They've been criticized for sound mixing, with dialogue at times being too difficult to hear amidst the intense action and sound effects. But this issue has sparked debates among audiences about the balance between immersive soundscapes and clear dialogue.
That's with any movie though. There's scenes in any movie where I'm like, what did he say? And you have to go back to it, kind of a thing. So I think they're nitpicking on that kind of stuff. Life is not
There's always going to
all
be there's
all
always going to be
loud and
nitpicking.
yeah.
And without further ado,
Some
let
things aren't. Some things are meant not to be heard at a certain level too. Like if they're whispering to me, what are they saying? I don't think you're supposed to hear that.
yeah, absolutely. Well, without further ado, let's get into our Christopher Nolan inspired movies. This is going to be super interesting and super fun to talk about, to be honest with you. So let's get right into it. Your first one.
Okay.
What movie is this?
So
What movie are we
I did not
betraying?
look. I did not look up the actual creator of this movie, but I wanted to remake a Christopher Nolan remake of the movie Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. It was shot in the late '60s, I believe. The original Billy the Kid in that was Chris Christopherson.
Yes.
Bob Dylan was in that movie, for Christ's sakes. I almost thought it'd be cool if there was a remake of this, that Bob Dylan would be in this since he's still alive. He could be Alias all over again. But I thought what was interesting when I did this picture, let's see if I can find my prompt real quick. I wrote down a movie remake done by Christopher Nolan of Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, starring Asa Butterfield. And I'm trying to remember. Okay, I want to say he was in Malcolm in the Middle, but I might be mixing up my kids. But I thought he'd be a really good Billy. The guy that's in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. In the third movie, he's the guy that controls the arrow now. I thought he'd be a good.
I can't remember.
Western.
I've seen those movies once.
He's an older dude. But what I really liked about this picture was the fact that it's showing these two kids, and I started thinking, well, what if Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid knew each other, like grew up together, kind of a thing. That's a storyline that has been done yet, but as far as I know, like if they knew each other, it's always when they're older, you know.
Christopher Nolan knows, to make these stories believable if need be, and plus, since he's been going the more historical filmmaking route, this would make sense for him to do.
Yeah. When I thought of this, I almost thought you were going to do a 310 to Yuma. I almost did it, but I was like, nah, John might do that one.
It's too soon. It's too soon. I actually didn't go westerns. Like, for example, this next one, and it's funny too, because we're talking about like historical dramas, right? I would love to see. Now, the step for me that started off with wanting Christopher Nolan, he's always doing these mind-bending things. I started off with him wanting to do a Call of Duty Black Ops adaptation, which, if you're familiar with the story, and I came up with 4 different scenarios, but after coming into this one, the Battle of Quezon, I figured I think it would be really cool for Christopher Nolan to do a Vietnam era movie. It's been a while since we've had a very raw, emotional take on the Vietnam War, and the Battle of Quezon wouldn't be any different. What I put here in my prompt was I wanted a dramatic scene set during the Vietnam War where you are part of a special forces team, a SOG jungle warfare team fighting in the dense jungles of Quezon. I wanted to show a unit getting ready for an intense firefight. We're in the deep jungle. There's fog everywhere. I mean, you even get like Predator vibes here.
Yeah, I would love to see a Christopher Nolan Vietnam movie.
Yeah, I think especially again when he's touching more to these historical drama movies, I think it would be real cool to tell a story in this era.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and with his success with Oppenheimer and how he did Dunkirk, excuse me, it just makes sense for him to do a Vietnam movie. I'm actually would love to see what he do, and it's almost like he's going down through time too. If you noticed, Dunkirk was that World War One? I believe that was World War One.
Yeah, I think so. Sounds right.
Let me fact check that one. No, it's actually the Second World War, and now he's doing.
Oh, it is too.
Now he's doing another historical drama.
Okay.
In World War II. So let's see if he can kind of push it up and go to Vietnam after this, right? You'd have to have like a great cast like Sam Worthington, Christian Bale, Robert De Niro.
Fassbender. What's his guy's name?
Michael Fassbender.
He'd be good in it.
Yes,
he'd be
I
awesome.
love Michael Fassbender. Absolutely love him. Talk to me about this one.
So I thought it's because of Oppenheimer gotten this idea, because it's about the kind of same time period, but I thought it would have been cool if Christopher Nolan did a movie on the events of 1947 in Roswell, New Mexico. Even though really no one knows what's going on, I still think you could paint a pretty good picture of just the known information the public's been given.
I think this is cool that you did this, Redder, because with the UFO hearing that happened this week as well, don't know if you were
Yes.
following that. This kind.
Oh.
You know, people start talking about Roswell again. And
Mm-hmm.
start talking about non-human biologicals. And it's actually kind of funny. People wanted the government to tell the truth about the aliens. We get the truth about the aliens, and they think they're still lying.
Yep. Yep.
But I think this would be a really nice story to touch. And again, another
In the
idea for
story of
Christopher
almost like an
Nolan.
Oppenheimer. Yep.
Yeah, a couple
Uh,
years after.
the guy that I was trying to put into this movie, like as far as an actor goes, there's a series on Netflix called Mindhunter, and he's the younger detective. The guy's name is Jonathan Groff,
Okay.
and I just thought he kind of has that 40s look to him, so I was just like, yeah, he'd be a good detective or military official. Or
There are some actors that you look at and you're like, oh yeah, that guy would have been great in like an 80s actor. Just his look would have been perfect. And I could see that with this actor right here. And then this is the actor on the left, right?
Correct.
And the one on the right's just a randomly AI generated person.
Yeah, just could be an official soldier too. It gives you some depth seeing two people on there rather than just one, and then the plane behind him.
Or is it the plane?
Yeah.
My next one. This is interesting because if the moment that you look at this, you know what it is. It's the button from Watchmen. And I had a bunch of really cool renders that I came out with this one. A bunch of cool one of Night Owl, the Silk Spectre, Dr. Manhattan, Rorschach. But I really wanted to show the button and really give the emotion of what the button meant to the comic book and the movie and the upcoming rated R cartoon movie that's coming out for it. I would love to see what Christopher Nolan would do in that world. Now, it'd be kind of interesting because the only really major CGI that he would really have to think about is with Dr. Manhattan, unless he finds a way to make him glow somehow, to make the cinematic look glow, or just not have him glow at all.
Right, have go a different route.
Yeah, and with the issues that are portrayed in the story, if you're familiar with the story, I mean, I think it works well with what Christopher Nolan would love to do with a little mind bending. Like Watchmen is a big mind bender, and Christopher Nolan would be perfect to do this. He would be absolutely perfect to do this movie.
When you were doing some of these renderings, did you get any during daylight? I know the original shot in the movie is nighttime, but I was curious if they ever did like any daytime shots of that.
I got none in the daytime.
Yeah.
None in the daytime. I actually think the movie itself is actually more nighttime-ish as well.
Yeah, because he's been thrown out of the skyscraper.
Yeah, I think really the only scenes that you see with the sun is out is when you see Ozymandias in his office. That's really it.
Dark times.
Yep. Now talk to me about this, Strobridge. We got Harrison Ford.
Now, certain ideas I had were based on the concept of the movie, and then other ones were based on actors. I thought of Harrison Ford, and I was like, trying to think of a movie that he would agree with, because he is picky, and I'm glad that he is. What would he possibly be into that could be a remake? And then I've always been a fan of Alfred Hitchcock, so I think my favorite movie is North by Northwest of his. So it'd be cool to see him do that, and it doesn't go too far from characters he's played before, because that's kind of a fugitive kind of character. That he's accused of something and he's running away. Maybe that's why I thought immediately of him, and then North by Northwest, because it's just a chase movie.
Well, Harrison Ford is known for being these, this old, rough around the edges guy. He's always been portrayed as that character, even in shows like 1923, where even at his old age, still tough as balls. But a comedic asshole at best.
Or cowboys and aliens. I mean, he's always had a cowboy aspect. I mean, that's what Star Wars. He was basically a cowboy, you know, just space cowboy. Space cowboy.
Now this next one, you enjoyed the look of it, and you knew exactly what it was, because it was exactly what I wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Metal Gear Solid, tactical espionage, directed by Christopher Nolan.
I like the title.
It's a callback to the game. It was a tactical espionage shooter to the game. So there's a lot of people that I would love to see portray this character. Michael Fassbender, Oscar Isaac, Christian Bale. You know, I could think of so many more who would be good. John Krasinski. You know,
who's that?
He is
What's he been in?
Jim from The Office.
Okay.
He's also Jack Reacher.
Oh yeah, he would be good.
You know, so he's got the moves. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But this photo in particular is actually Oscar Isaac, and this is the portrayal of Oscar Isaac that it gave us with the eye patch, with the scratches on his face. He's got his tactical top on, and I love this shot because it's very Christopher Nolan. When I look at this, I'm thinking of like the ending of Tenet, where they're in like that big deserty area field, and we could see maybe this could be like a scene, like the beginning scene or the ending scene of this Christopher Nolan version of Metal Gear Solid, when he's ready to take on what's next. I'm a huge Metal Gear Solid fan. I love the game Snake Eater. We know there's a movie coming out with Oscar Isaac in it. We don't know when it's coming out, but I wanted to get ahead of the curve, and I wanted to get this going and show what we might see.
I think I can kind of put it in words now of a style that I see with Christopher Nolan stuff. It's not necessarily darker, but maybe more earth tony.
Yeah.
Earth tone, like a brown to his films.
Yes.
Not necessarily darker.
Browns and whites and golds and things like that.
Yeah. Ambers.
Yeah, I love how this came out. The eye patch is actually really cool too.
Yeah, it's not floating around. It's actually on his face.
Now you got me super excited for this one because you created The Fifth Element. And The Fifth Element came out in 1995. One of the best movies to come out of its time. Okay, Terminator T2 came out in 1992 and had one of the best graphics. But Bruce Willis came out with The Fifth Element, which was directed by Francis Lawrence, and which had Mila Jovovich's debut, and starred also. I'm not even looking at the IMDb. I know this movie like the back of my hand. That was Chris Tucker.
Oh God, yeah.
Chris Tucker as Ruby Rod. Gary Oldman was in that film too. He was the villain in that film. Right. A lot of people, they don't even recognize him. The Fifth Element is one of my top 5 movies. So talk to me about your rendition of the Fifth Element by Christopher Nolan.
So I wanted some actors that I liked. Not that I don't like Bruce Willis in the original, because I loved it, but I wanted someone a little younger, not too young that he doesn't look like he doesn't have all the military experience that he would need in this type of situation.
Yeah.
So I thought of Sebastian Stan. That guy's my go-to.
Sebastian Stan would be a great
Corbin Dallas.
Great Corbin Dallas. I agree with that.
Yeah. And then for the female, for Mila's Lilu character, I thought of Natalie Dormer. I really like her in I can't remember if it was Insurgents that she was in, or Hunger Games.
Hunger Games, yep.
She was in one of them. Hunger Games. And then of course Game of Thrones. And I thought she'd be a badass Lilu.
I mean, those are great choices, and then again, and it's funny too because the third person there, I can't. He looks like an actor that we're very familiar with. I can't put my name on who that is.
But I think that person is a real person.
Yeah, I can't put my finger on it either. But has well, other than Interstellar, I guess he has done some sci-fi. But I thought that would be an interesting one for him to be in because that's not necessarily a bright movie either. And I
It's
almost want to see it. I almost want to see a little bit of a darker, more peril, like almost like uh, we didn't find all the stones, so
yeah.
now we're stuck. So we have to find that other stone. Like they keep saying, like it's the end. Well, it's not the end if we can find them, but we're just
Now
a
how
twist.
would you fix the issue with the flying cars? Because Christopher Nolan's not known for doing major graphics. So if there's flying cars, how would you portray it as a filmmaker?
I don't think I would do a lot of filming in the city in New York. This would be more like in the desert or on another planet, other planets. I think that's what would happen. I would
Yeah,
get away from the flying car tech part of it and maybe some other stuff.
yeah. One
I
trick that they
mean,
used to use in Star Wars for the speeders, they would put mirrors on the bottom
underneath
of
it.
underneath it so they could look like they were flying. I think that would also be a really cool trick that they could
Yep.
utilize for it.
Or they had some screens. Didn't they just would that be considered CGI though? Or the
Yeah,
screens were moving
the
like in the
guy
forest?
does not
Uh,
use any green screen.
Yeah, okay. So that would be considered cheating. Oh, they got the tracks that go on the actual cameras nowadays where they can just go along like an actual train track. So they could do that still. It just wouldn't be CGI. They just have
Yeah.
it on an
Can
actual
can you believe that
track.
on Interstellar they did not use any green screens?
I'm trying to figure out how they would do that, especially those parts where he's in multi-dimensional
Yeah.
kind of situations, the threading and yeah, how they did that. I'd be interested. I'm gonna have to watch that now. There's got to be like some commentary on the DVD of that, how he did stuff.
It is going to be very interesting. And now my final one that I feel super personal about, and one that I would love to see happen. And the look of it is just very Christopher Nolan. Um, I would want to see
Mhm.
Killian Murphy play Robin Hood in a Christopher Nolan directed version. And there's been so many iterations. Russell Crowe has played him. Kevin Costner has played him. There's even the TV version of there. And I think Killian Murphy would be such a perfect fit. It, but but
But
let's change it a little bit. Let's bring it to the World War I era.
ooh, I was wondering if you're gonna have a twist for this. I already like it.
Let's bring it to the
Okay,
World War I
World
era
War
because
One.
Christopher Nolan is also known for a lot of his dress attire that he uses for his films. And I think that the World War I era dress wear, the 1910s, the 1920s, around that era, it
Yep.
fits exactly his style of things that he's used. Look at the way that he's dressed Bruce Wayne. Look at Inception. Everyone is
Yep.
dressed very transatlantic.
I like that.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. And even though people don't even speak like that anymore, which I wish they did, it's such a
Hmm.
cool accent. But to have that kind of dress style and bring it into a Robin Hood world, in an era where guns are not that far in technology, people are still using
Right. Whereas
bayonets and
World War Two is
swords.
like all more techy. World War One's still more like the old world starting to meet the new world in a sense
Yes.
with technology. So yeah, World War One's a good fit for that.
I think it would be perfect. I think Killian Murphy. I mean, bringing it in any era, I think Killian Murphy would be perfect as the role of Robin Hood. It's such a good story. Whatever tale of Robin Hood that you've listened to, I think he's the perfect role for it. I think Christopher Nolan would do the story of Robin Hood so much justice, and I'm rooting for it. I'm rooting for it.
Root it. You hear that, Chris?
And he just looks good. I mean, he's got the robe, and then you can see like his top. He's got like a jacket with that belt in front of it, but he's wearing like a tie, which is not really known during the medieval time. But wouldn't it be cool just to mix it up a little bit?
And would it be so tied around him being an archer? Could it be something else, like the generosity part of Robin Hood? It could be more of that
Yeah,
aspect.
instead of the battles and the fighting, you know,
Yeah.
they see a different side of him.
Mm-hmm.
It's very Christopher Nolan is a different breed of director. Different breed. And talking.
Does he have a new project coming out that you know of?
No, he hasn't said anything. We'll probably be hearing about it in about a year.
Yeah.
He just take some time.
Just came out.
He'll take a vacation. He'll go somewhere, and then he'll get some inspiration and be like, "Well, I think this would be a good setting for whatever story that he's telling." I feel like the choice of movies that we made. I think the craziest ones I did Watchmen, and you did Fifth Element. Two movies that would be a challenge for him to make, but would be good stories for him to take on.
Just the fact that he doesn't use CGI, I would love to see versions of his remakes without it.
Absolutely,
that'd be interesting.
And I love the renders that we came out with today. I think they were all pretty accurate.
Yeah.
And I'm especially, my love for film came because of him. Obviously I watched a bunch of movies before I even heard of the guy. Some of my favorite movie of all time, you can laugh at me if you want, is Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, starring Kevin Costner.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh god.
It was.
I used to quote that movie all the time.
I
so
still
don't worry.
do. I'll cut your heart out with a spoon. It's amazing,
Why they call you Bull? Because you're so big?
This.
Oh, because I'm so long.
But remember, they had Christian Slater.
Oh, that's right.
Kevin Costner. Who played
Morgan Freeman?
Morgan Freeman was in it.
Yep.
Alan Rickman.
Who made Marion was.
Alan Rickman and Gina Davis.
That's right. Was it Gina Davis? She wasn't made Marion.
Wait a minute.
She looked like Gina Davis. The actress or actor, I should say.
Oh, my bad. It's Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio.
Yeah, I can't remember her in too many other movies.
My bad.
A couple during that time frame.
I'm trying to. That's right. She was in Scarface and The Abyss. Yeah, I didn't mean to mix that up. But I'm super appreciative of what Christopher Nolan has done, because he made a guy like me look at the film and appreciate it more, and in a way kind of spoil myself, because when I watch a movie like The Avengers, where it's CGI driven, some of that lore gets taken away. Twisted Metal just came out yesterday, and I'm even a lot of that lore is taken away, because it's so CGI ridden, and not that it ruins it for me, because it doesn't. Sometimes the CGI is needed in these films and television shows, but the way that Christopher Nolan does it just gives it a perspective that it can be done this way, and it can be done right, and you can be highly successful for it as well.
Been proven before.
Yeah. So
not just with his work, with others.
Absolutely. So guys, thank you for coming to this episode. Happy birthday, Christopher Nolan. His birthday is the 30th. So and it's actually funny because we didn't know that. I just found that out as I was, reading this today. But his birthday.
We've been pretty good on our show topics lately, and then something happens. Oh, we didn't mean it to happen that way. It just worked out.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about too.
Yeah. Yep.
No, but
well, thank you for listening, everybody.
Yeah,
we appreciate
thank you for listening, watching, and I'm gonna assume that you guys are watching, because our YouTube has been off the charts. Even though you can watch on Spotify as well. We've noticed that you guys have been watching on YouTube as well, but 74% of you are not subscribed that are watching the show. So go on, subscribe,
hit the little bell button when so you get the notification when a new episode is out every week. Leave us a comment, leave us a review, tell us what you think of the episode, tell us what you think of us, what you like, what you don't like. Give us a suggestion. We want to hear suggestions. We want to hear from you, the people.
Yes.
You got anything before we go, Strobridge?
I think we're going to leave our next show up in the air until we decide what's our strongest subject matter.
Yeah, we'll see.
Or did you have something in mind?
I did not have something in mind,
okay.
But something will come up because something always does come up.
Always.
I'm going to the land of make believe tomorrow, so that place is full of imagination. So, but thank you for coming, Strobridge.
I will go to the woods and I will develop some ideas as well. Thank you for coming as well, John, and thank you for everyone listening.
Toodaloo.